Many have seen images from the 1950s of the chaos created when Brown versus the Board of Education ushered in the racial integration of America's schools. Those students on the front lines of the progress felt their fight would lead to more diverse classrooms and better opportunities for students of color. 70 years after that landmark court ruling, our country has a more racially diverse group of students, but many of America's schools have now resegregated. ABC's Ike Ejiochi explores what that means not only for current, but future students.
Just like millions of other high school students, Ava Pittman starts her journey to class taking the bus. But that's where the similarities end. You see, this daily trip starts long before first period, just after dawn breaks.
I used to live in Forest Hill, so it was like a 15-minute walk. But now it is probably an hour and 30 minutes on the bus.
Every morning, Ava makes the 14-mile, hour-and-a-half journey through Queens from Far Rockaway to Elmhurst, just to get to her school, MELS, the Metropolitan Expeditionary Learning School.
I have English first period, I have music after, and then I have pre-calc, which is going to be strenuous. And then after my last class, we have speech and debate practice. So we have practice till around 5:15, and I probably won't be home until around like 6:30, 7, depending on how long I have to wait for the bus, the delays. Hopefully anytime before 7 I'll be happy with. And then I have to do homework, shower, eat, go to bed.
What are the schools like around your neighborhood in Far Rockaway compared to the schools around MELS in Elmhurst?
Schools in certain places like Far Rockaway, the resources are minimal. It's just the quality of education, it's different. I do a lot of things that are like inside the school that I couldn't take with me to another place, if that makes sense. I co-founded an affinity group called BAM, which is Black at MELS. I'm also part of Education Student Advisory Council. My speech and debate team is the most diverse in our league. There's a lot of Latino people in my school, and then Black, and then white, and then Asian.
The opportunities available to Ava are geographically unique, but just to receive it, most of her day is taken up by her commute. Schools in the U.S. remain deeply divided along racial, ethnic, and economic lines, even as studies show that the K-12 public school population is becoming more diverse.
My elementary school, when I moved to Forest Hills, was very white, and it was like me and I think 3 or 4 other Black kids, and like I struggled with finding people that looked like me and like resonating with what was being taught to me, especially because there were no Black teachers.
Take me to a world where Ava never left and always went to school around home. What do you think her school experience would have been like in that world?
Honestly, I think she's become a stronger advocate because she got to see the other side from a very young age. You know, we talked about Black history. We talked about the importance of her identity and how she operates in spaces, but she got to see that everyone doesn't have that.
70 years ago, the landmark Brown versus the Board of Education ruling was supposed to make schools more diverse, declaring separating children in schools on the basis of race unconstitutional and ushering in integration efforts. But according to the latest U.S. Government Accountability Office investigation of K-12 education, schools are becoming highly segregated again. More than a third of students attend schools where 75% or more students are of a single race or ethnicity. In 1957, 3 years after the Brown versus the Board of Education ruling, the NAACP attempted to enroll 9 Black students at Little Rock Central High School. The ensuing chaos gripped the nation, and it became known to the media as the Little Rock Nine.
The first day is actually significant because it is a mirror image of all the other days. We were beaten and pushed and shoved, that stuff was thrown on us, we were kicked around. But as I said before, we had taken a vow of nonviolence. We chose not to fight.
The governor of Arkansas at the time prevented the students from entering the racially segregated school, using his state's National Guard for help. After weeks of failed attempts to safely get the students through a full day of classes, President Eisenhower intervened.
Our enemies are gloating over this incident and using it everywhere to misrepresent our whole nation.
Those students today disappointed how much work still needs to be done.
Over these 60-plus years, all the achievements that we have made here in this country is now being taken away from us. And if young people don't stand up and stop some of this process and strategize as to how they're going to go about changing these things, or at least put some rudders to what is being changed by others, we're in a mess here.
When you look at American history, what you will find is a consistent willingness to support segregated society. That is the main focus, but you can't stop working for it in any case.
Right.
You have to be fully aware that unless you have superhuman powers, how are you going to change it?
Unfortunately, we have come away from our commitment to the spirit of Brown. Schools have been resegregating rapidly since the 1980s. So let's think about designing for diversity.
Saba Burita co-founded Brown's Promise alongside Area Americana. It's an initiative working to combat racial segregation and honor the legacy of the Little Rock 9 students.
Why are our schools still segregated today? It's multi-faceted, big question. I think it is largely because we don't talk about it. We can't and we won't fix what we don't talk about and recognize.
Following the landmark Brown versus the Board decision, students started getting bused into schools from different neighborhoods to promote integration. But much of that stopped. Starting in 1980, costly busing orders began to expire. And with a history of housing discrimination leading many neighborhoods to be segregated by race, for millions of students, going to the public school closest to your home means it won't be racially diverse. Despite the billions of dollars invested to desegregate public schools over the last few decades, today, school segregation is back at the same level it was in the 1960s.
School segregation is persistent, and it plagues us across the country and across the years, unfortunately. I wish I could say there was a place that had solved it.
According to data collected by the Department of Education, between 2022 and 2023, amongst 100,000 public schools across the country, about 83% of Black public school students and 82% of Latino students attended a majority non-white school. At the same time, 75% of white public school students were enrolled in a majority white school.
We talk a lot about the importance of school integration to the health of our democracy. Students who continually are growing up in segregated environments are not interacting with people from different backgrounds. So when they get into higher ed or they get into their careers, and they've never worked with someone who was from a different race or a different socioeconomic background, that causes friction.
That's such a great point.
At a recent conference in Baltimore, Saba and Ari met with education leaders to discuss solutions. Educators are making a major push toward public magnet schools, in particular, which offer specialized courses and programs designed to attract a more diverse student body.
They offer theme programming that you can't get in other schools, and students and families find that valuable. And what they in particular find important is the opportunity to go to a school that's integrated, where students can learn alongside students from different racial, ethnic, socioeconomic backgrounds, and they engage in a pluralistic society in a way that they wouldn't otherwise be prepared to do if they were in a traditional public school.
Ava, even at a young age, is also fighting for diversity and, most importantly, integration in public schools. She's a youth advocacy director at Integrate NYC, a youth-led organization aimed at creating equity in New York City schools.
Power to the youth, yeah.
Integrate NYC is currently in a legal battle with New York State. According to the Civil Rights Project, New York is one of the most diverse states in the nation, yet at the same time, one of the most segregated. In the lawsuit against the state, Integrate NYC claims the sorting and admission process in New York City schools forces students of color to be channeled into the most overcrowded and under-resourced schools across the city. The New York City Department of Education sent us a statement saying, in part, we agree with the plaintiffs that achieving those educational goals is made harder by the complex system of biases, inequities deeply rooted in this country's history, culture, and institutions, a system that we also want to change. But this lawsuit is not the answer. We are prepared to defend against these claims in court. Ava is even taking her fight from the streets of New York City to the halls of Washington, D.C., speaking on a student-led panel during Attorney General Merrick Garland's remarks on the 70th anniversary of Brown versus Board of Ed.
The doctrine of separate but equal has no place.
Moderated by Brown's promise.
Majority black and brown schools will lack resources. They won't have AP classes. They won't have sports teams.
Educators and integration advocates have tried for years to get the federal government to have a bigger role in supporting school desegregation. A spokesperson for the U.S. Department of Education sent us a statement saying, in part, the department has supported voluntary school integration through local partnerships with parents, educators, and communities, addressed disparities in funding and resources for schools, and issued guidance and funding to support a more diverse educator workforce.
So many people here today. You changed the world.
The Biden administration announced last year they'd created a new $10 million grant to fund school integration efforts, just a small portion of the $100 million the administration has tried to get Congress to put towards this effort. Unless something is done to improve school integration, Ava, like thousands of other students across the country, will have to keep fighting for their education and the opportunities that come with it. How do you fix this here in New York City? Can you, and what does that actually look like?
Young people are the only people in New York City, like high schools, public schools. So we need to listen to our demands because they're very important. And we shape the future.
Examining another aspect of education. Our thanks to Ike Ejiochi for that.